All right, I interviewed my high school principal, Steve Combs, on my human resource responsibility interview. First thing I asked him was, what process do you go through when hiring a new teacher? He says obviously they advertise on SuccessLink and MoReap. They like to leave it open for about a month so that they can get an adequate number of applications, and once he gets the applications, he'll read through cover letters, resumes, and letters of recommendation, probably similar stuff to what the rest of the class does. He also looks at how they can fit into the district well, if they're from the area or if they're trying to get back to the area, just kind of what kind of background they have with the area and why they're trying to come to Harrisburg. And lastly, he'll look for possible extracurricular activities they can help with, or for any advanced degrees with dual credit purposes. This is pretty much the same process I expected to hear with most principals. The one that I was a little surprised by was that he said that with interviews that he'll a lot of times bring in the content area teacher or have the guidance counselor sit in on the interviews as well. Whenever I was going through that process, I remember I was interviewing one-on-one a lot with principals, so that was really the only thing that kind of surprised me from that question. Other than that, it seems like a pretty standard procedure with how our district hires new teachers. I next asked him, do you consult with anyone on staff assignment, or is that your responsibility? So he usually collaborates with the counselor whenever they start putting the schedule together. They look at obviously what's going to be best for the kids, but also the teachers as well. They don't want to overload teachers with more preps than what they can handle, but they also at the same time have to be best about have to be mindful of how to best meet the students' needs. I think it's probably a pretty difficult area to negotiate, especially at a small school. You have to think about what's best for the students, but without overloading the teachers as well. So is it best to have a bunch of electives but give the teacher 5 or 6 preps, or is it best to have the teacher focus primarily on 3 to 4 classes and really have them focus on those areas to give the students what they need? So I think you should have to know your staff as well with that. We have a science teacher right now who's kind of an expert in forensics, so we offer a forensics class. We also have a math teacher who has a minor in meteorology, so we offer a meteorology class. So I think anytime you have a teacher who has an area of expertise, you want to utilize that the best you can. Next question I asked him was, do you do anything to recruit new staff members? Really the only thing we added here is that obviously you use SuccessLink and MoReap, but if there's a specific area of need and he knows of someone who might be a good fit for this position, he might contact that person. He says a lot of times, with his coaching background, this will happen with a coaching position if he knows of someone that would be a good fit for that position. But most of the time, it's just SuccessLink and MoReap that is used. I then asked him, what process do you go through to evaluate your staff? Like most teachers in here, or most of you guys in here, we use the knee evaluation tool. He said we try to get between 4 and 6 evaluations for tenured teachers and 8 for non-tenured teachers. I think ideally you would want to try and get a few more evaluations, but realistically, with principals, I know it's tough to get that many evaluations. So I think maybe the target would be, I think maybe his target would be a little higher, but realistically that 4 to 6 evaluations for tenured teachers and 8 for non-tenured, I would say is a pretty good number to try and shoot for. But if you get more evaluations, I don't really see what the harm would be in having more evaluations. Do you go through? I next asked him, do you go through a different process for hiring non-certified staff than you do for certified staff? He said we advertise for non-certified a little differently. We won't post it on SuccessLink or MoReap or anything like that. We'll advertise at the local stores and restaurants and try to interview a lot of local candidates. Generally, the local candidates are more invested in the school district, is what he said, because with the salary that those employees are going to be getting, you want some people who want what's best for the school district and will do a lot for the school district because they are local. I would guess that's probably a pretty common practice among small schools. I can't think of hardly any non-certified staff members in our district who aren't local. I know all our building level non-certified staff, they're all local, and I think everybody, all our non-certifieds they work really hard at their job, which makes our district run better. And without those non-certified, it'd be pretty hard to run the district. And I can think of several non-certified employees that we have that have been in the district for over 10 years. So I think that this practice of hiring a lot of local non-certified staff members is a really good practice that we should continue to do for years to come. And a final question I asked him was, what is your role when a grievance has been filed by one staff member against another? He said he actually hadn't had to do this yet, which been pretty fortunate in his 10 years as principal. But he said he would contact the superintendent, who would contact the school attorney in the process and start the process of working through the grievance. Said his role is pretty limited, other than documenting the grievance and reporting it to the superintendent. He said what more of his role is kind of on the front end, trying to solve the grievance first, or trying to solve the conflict first, and but just to try to get it to where there isn't an actual grievance filed. Make sure if they can solve the conflict without taking it that far, then that's what he tries to do. And so far he's been able to do that. He hasn't had to file a grievance yet, which hopefully he doesn't have to do that anytime soon. But he said he's been pretty fortunate in that aspect. So, thank you.